Hello everyone and welcome again to another episode of our tutorial series, the Unity Beginner Guide, here learning about C#, the basics. So welcome again and I hope you are having a wonderful week. I hope you're starting your week in a good shape, in a good motivation, in a good mood. If you're not, I hope everything will be okay, everything will be good. Just trust yourself and do what you are good at. So let's get started in this video. In the last episode, guys, we learned how to use the if statement and we started to learn how we can use it into making our decisions in the game. But I noticed that I didn't teach you something before this, but also I did it on purpose because I needed you to ask yourself what is the object of using this update and using this start function here, and why I did create this variable here in the top, why I create this variable here inside this start, and why I used this one here inside this update. So in this episode we are going to learn finally how what is a public variable, what is a private variable, and what is a local variable. So let's get started, guys, and let me show you directly what we did. So here in the previous episode we created those variables here, right? Those variables, we created them inside the start function. It means those variables, they are local variable. What I mean by local, it means I can't use them outside this function here. So if I try, for example, to write age here, it doesn't work. As you can see, it didn't detect the variable I created in top there. Why? Because the variable age, name, and everything, they are local variable. They work only inside this function. So if I try here to write age, as you can see, I have it here and I can use it however I want. But if you try to use it outside this function here, you will get an error. The error will be telling you that the variable you created is it doesn't exist, which means it is a local variable, only work inside this start function here. And that is the meaning of using local variable. So why would you need to have local variable, right? This sort of thing, you can do it for security and also for not having a lot of public variables. So this way you can protect those variable inside this function. So what is a public variable now, you will ask me, right? So in our case here, we created this my camera, right? So the variable camera exists outside my camera, exists outside my start function here. So this is the variable my camera, right? This variable here is not a public one, it's a private variable. So before we talk about public, we need to talk about private. So what is the difference between a private variable and a local variable and a public variable? So the local variable, as I said, they exist only inside those function and they cannot work outside of them. The private variable, like this one here, game object, and by the way, when you give a type and a name to your variable, they are by default private variable. We can of course do this here, we can add private here and it's the same. If you write private or if you don't, it's still a private variable, but you can do this just for the sake of making your code look better. So this game object here is a private variable. It means this variable here is only available inside this class. So this is our class here. Our class is test. It means this variable here is a private game object. My camera is available only inside this class here. So I can use my camera even inside the update function here. So let's say for example I want to use my camera here. I can just write my camera, and here I have the variable available for me to use however I want, as long as you are inside this my camera class. Where is the boundary for this class in this for this function, right? In the last episode we talked about this. So you see this curly bracket here? This one here is connected to this one here. It means this is a block of code. So when you create this variable inside the start function, those one here are local variable, and they are used only inside this block of code. It means only inside this start function. We are going to talk about function later, guys. When we create a private variable, it means this private variable here, my camera, is used only inside this class here, which means only inside between this one here and this one here, which give us the access to all the class. Those are those two types of variable, a private one and a local one. But when you create a public variable, let's say I will make this into a public variable. What does it mean? Of course you did guess it. A public variable can be used and can be accessed from anywhere from our game. It means even if I have another class with another name, another script, we can get access to this variable here from those scripts outside of it. So this is really cool, guys. Now you may wonder, well, why do I need to create public variables if I need to protect the other ones, right? Well, in Unity there are local variables that you will use only just like in an instant or something like this. So you don't need to have this variable with you all the game. You just need it for this moment, right? And there are variable where you want to keep something hidden, but you can use it in all your class, like let's say for example the health bar for a player. When an enemy hit the player, it means the player is hit from a script from an enemy. So we need access to this health bar for the players to take point from it, right? So we need to make this into a public one, right? So and stuff like this, just imagine it just like this so you can understand it. Now let me show you something really cool about this public one. Let's say you created a game object named my camera, but you couldn't find the game camera in your scene, right? So you need a reference to this camera. That's why when you make a public variable, let me just save this code here and let me show you when I go back to the Unity. So remember, this is a public variable my camera. If I go back to Unity here and if I select camera one here, notice with me what we have here in the inspector area. This is our script, and here we have the variable my camera with an open field face in it. It means that this variable is a public variable and we can see it in the inspector, and this gives us the power to control it and to do however we want with it. So what do we need here? This is my camera, right? So it needs a camera, and we can just click on the camera here and we can basically drag and drop it into the one here. So let me just drag it like this, and as you can see I can just put it here, and here we have my camera, and here I have the game object I'm trying to find, which is camera one, right? So if I go back here, you will find that we're trying to find the main camera. Of course I changed the name. I forget this, I did this, so this should be camera one, just like this. So here we can get the reference from this my camera into this camera here directly. I can create another public variable just to give you a good idea. I will make this one a float, and let's call it speed, for example. This is my character speed, and I will give it a value like 15, 50, something like this. Let me save the code, and once I save my code, notice with me here in the inspector we have another public variable which is speed with the value of 50, and here we can change it if we want. You can make this into 100 or anything, and it will work perfectly. So when you change the value of a public variable here in the inspector, it will affect the value you had before in the script. Remember this, guys, really you need to remember this. Now what is the use of this thing here? Why do I need to get access to change the value here? Let's say, for example, you created a character and you want to test the speed of your character, if he's running fast or is running slow. So you need to adjust the speed from here to get the right speed for your character. And once you've done that, all you have to do is to go back into your script and give it the value you did like from testing with your game. And this is basically the difference between public, private and local variable. This is it for this episode, guys. I hope you did like it. I hope you did understand the difference between them, and in the next episode we are going to continue explaining the loop, the while, for and all the stuff, so we can get ahead of the C# basics tutorial into finishing them, and we can start making a simple 2D game where we are going to practice everything we learned, guys. So I hope you like this video. Subscribe if you're not subscribed yet, like if you don't like what we do, and see you in the next episode.